Tom conducted a live interview with writer and producer Kamran Pasha, known from, among other things, the television series Nikita, Sleeper Cell, and 2007's Bionic Woman. Spurred on by the hypocrisy of shutting down all of society and film production while cheering on the so-called peaceful demonstrations, the conversation soon turned to how the woke agenda first engulfed Hollywood and how the industry has now got to get out of it.
I got into trouble. I posted, on Facebook, I questioned the protests. I said the same people on my Facebook, a lot of Hollywood people were saying, oh my God, we got to go out and protest. And these were the same people that were saying you can't go out to the beach, you can't go out and protest the lockdown. You can't, but you can protest this, right? And I said, guys, if this is a consistent, we should all just stay home, right? Or we should all be out in public, make a choice. And I got really attacked, and people said, well, you're being really insensitive. And, I got a lot of DMs from people saying that's really inappropriate. You can't question Black Lives Matter. I'm like, hey man, you see this color? I have something to say as a minority in this town, as a Muslim guy. And I have something to say about being a minority. And so it is what it is. The hypocrisy is a real thing. It's because it's an echo chamber, and I don't care about it anymore because, as you see, I've talked on these things.
Right, and I hate to bring it up, but it is such a big deal. It's gotten so, and like in my years growing up, I don't ever remember this being such a big deal. I mean, yeah, the Oscars and certain other places, you've had actors and stuff go up there and say this and say that and protest this and protest that, but I just don't remember a point where the crazy had gotten so bad that we've gotten to this point where we're at right now, where even like to the detriment of their own business, it feels like at this point, Hollywood's just like, nope, we're going to stand by this. This is the hill we're going to die on, and the hypocrisy and the irony of it all. Yeah. It's just hilarious.
Well, I mean, I've said this because I'm not afraid to talk about politics. My politics are neither left nor right. As anyone who's heard me speak before, I'm pretty libertarian, so I have very unique views. But, this path we're on was set in motion the moment Trump was elected, right? And many of the choices that were made, many of the choices in Star Wars that were made were as a result of people in Hollywood seeing the election of Trump as, they literally saw it as the rise of Hitler. And I have my critiques of Trump, but he isn't that. And they saw it that way. And so they suddenly went to this mode of we've got to take control of all messaging and put out as much what they consider to be anti-Trump messaging, which became extreme left messaging, which I don't think the audience wants either, right? And that's what it's been for the last 2 or 3 years. And even though they don't believe any of the stuff that they're saying, they're like, well, we got to do this because we got to stop this force of history. I'm like, man, by going to an extreme leftist position where now people are like, end capitalism, right? End the nuclear family, right? I mean, that nobody wants this crap. And if you're feeding this crap into entertainment, people are going to stop watching this. You don't believe any of this. You're just saying it because you think that's what's going to beat Trump. I'm like, that's what's going to get
the right side of history. Yeah. That's another term I'm sick of hearing, the right side of history. It's like, how do you know?
I've had this argument recently with a friend of mine who's a very successful screenwriter who said, Trump will be out, and I believe history is, history. He's like very Marxist, like history will move forward to a progressive thing. I was like, history ain't progressive. History's a cycle. What are you talking about? Everything's happening now. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. What are you talking about? History,
especially if we keep ignoring the past. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Destroy the past. I'm like, you're just going to repeat the same crap over again. Well, and like I said, I've been doing this 19 years. What I watched is this phrase, subverting expectations. Again, it all started after Trump. I never heard this phrase before 2017. I never even heard it, right? Suddenly, I hear it all the time now. I heard it 2 days ago when I was pitching a show to an executive who I respected, but she was like, and we got to make sure we subvert expectations. I go, because, I find the term really offensive. As I got into filmmaking, I got into storytelling because I'm an audience member and I want to be entertained as much as I want to create. And the idea of subverting the audience's expectation is so deeply offensive to me. I mean, you should surprise people. I've said this before. As a good writer, you should surprise people. It shouldn't end the way the person thinks it's going to end, but it should fulfill them emotionally with an ending that they didn't see exactly coming that way, but it satisfied them emotionally. The idea of subverting expectations is actually aimed at subverting emotional satisfaction, in order to get some kind of message across. And that to me is deeply offensive as a storyteller. And it's also unproductive because if you don't fulfill your audience's emotional expectation, even if it's not plot expectation, then they're going to walk away, which is what happened with Disney Star Wars, which is what happened with all these things, with the Ghostbusters, reboot and this weird thing that they try to do with Terminator and all this stuff. You kill John Connor in the first minute. Yeah, that's subverting expectations. But I don't care about the rest of the movie now. I mean, you just killed John Connor, so you just undid Terminator 2, right?
Absolutely.
So Terminator 2 is an incredible movie. It's still an incredible movie.
Yeah, and not only that's where I brought up the irony of they don't even understand their own message, because they made Sarah Connor, one of the greatest mothers in cinema history, an absolute failure at that point.
Well, it's because there's an anti-family agenda in this. They preach this crap to other people. All these people I see preaching, we've got to deconstruct the nuclear family, all have very attractive spouses and nice children going to private schools, right? We got to end capitalism from rich people that are never going to end capitalism. So it's like, why are you guys saying this crap? You don't believe it.
Yeah, and then the whole deconstructing thing, I think we see in a lot of it, even though, in recent years, it's gotten a cult following with kind of like Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
It's still this common trope, and especially seems to just affect mainly white male characters, to be honest.
It is a conscious, not even unconscious agenda. It's a conscious agenda. The funny thing is it's largely white males who are writing these stories. In some ways, it's a little bit of like, get the spotlight off of me and I'll talk, and I'm just going to be the champion of this stuff. I mean, and as I've said on other podcasts, some of the most racist people I've come across in this town are people that are loudmouth progressive liberals who are the very caricature that they're talking about. Right. And they're the ones writing a lot of these stories. You'll see, and that's why you see, what happened to Star Wars is you look at characters that had a lot of potential, like Finn, ultimately become this racist character by people who are proclaiming diversity. And look, we got this Asian woman there. And it's like, why'd you get this Asian woman, this bad character? Right.
How do you see the situation with funding after all of this? You think these woke projects are still going to get funding, or are investors weary now?
It's a great question, because they were already weary a year ago. I knew that Birds of Prey was going to fail, because I knew they had figured out that all of those woke projects that we saw last year, whether it was Charlie's Angels or Terminator Dark Fate or whatever, they'd all been greenlit during the early excitement of, we got to get Trump out, and we got to make it strong women and fight for Latinos and all this, right? And whatever. So they all did all that. And it takes a few years to get a movie made. So there was a whole cycle of these woke movies that were put into production. Starting with Ghostbusters reboot. And then they all came out in the last couple of years, and they were all terrible, and they all did badly. And so people in the Star Wars and all did badly, and people began to realize this is the wrong thing that we set in motion a few years ago. We got to get off this track and onto a track that's actually going to make us money. And so they got into that place. And Birds of Prey I knew was going to fail, because the industry had already gotten to we're done with this woke crap. So they threw this out there, and they're like, Hail Mary, let's see if it works. It didn't. And so they were done. They were finished. And then even more than the pandemic and the lockdown, right, is then all the rioting and the social issues that erupted this summer exploded. And the industry's like, oh my God, now everyone is going, suddenly the official narrative has gone backwards to extreme left, right? It's gone backwards. And now everyone's already figured out the economic model of this extreme leftist, social progressivism, whatever stuff is not what the audience wants. They figured that out. That's not a profitable model. But now they're trapped, because now they've got to go back to something they know doesn't work, and they know they're just kowtowing to an enraged mob, right? To a Twitter mob. That's why you see things like, it's embarrassing. The great actress like Zoe Saldana, if you saw, she came out just publicly shaming herself and apologizing for being involved, in a movie where she played a black woman, great singer, Adina Simone, who's just of a darker shade than she is, right? As a black woman, and it was like she had to apologize for not being black enough. Zoe Saldana, and everyone is saying this garbage just to get the mob off their back, and no one believes it. I don't really think Zoe Saldana in her heart feels this is right. I mean, God forbid, you forgive me, Zoe, if you're watching this and you feel I'm misrepresenting you. You certainly didn't need to say any of the things you said. Maybe you believe them. I don't know. But I certainly believe that people around her don't think that she needed to apologize, but they felt they had to for political purposes. And the only person that's fighting back right now is Gina Carano. That's it. And God bless her. She is fighting back and saying, I will not go down this fake path of, pretending to be somebody I'm not in order to make you guys get off my back. And they're attacking her, but she's standing her ground. I think they want to end the extreme leftist political content. I think they really do. It's not making them money. And the bean counters like this is, everyone's Disney's people losing their jobs. It's real now, right? And people are out of work, and people have been out of work for months now. And the one thing they need to do is get everyone back to work, and they need to make money, or the whole industry collapses and everyone's out of a job, right? And yet they have to kowtow to this narrative. I think, God willing, after November, after the election, we'll be back on track. Whatever happens with the election, whoever wins, I think they'll feel like, okay, Biden won, we got what we wanted, so now we can get off this crap, right? Or Trump won, damn it, Trump won. Fine. None of that effort to create all this drama got him out, so we got to deal with him again. So let's just get off the drama. Either way, I think that will give them the excuse to get off of this political thing because they know it's not going to make them money.
This video was comprised of 3 segments from our interview with Kamran Pasha. Be sure to check out the original unedited interview as well as Kamran's own YouTube channel, both of which you will find links to in the description below. Continuing on from Kamran's comment about Gina Carano, also be sure to check out Midnight's Edge Editor-in-Chief Andre's editorial on the dissident who stands up where others bend the knee, and let us know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.